Hello, welcome to the Antisocial Club. I am diamondalexisugc. Today we're going to be making knit shorts with our Sentro knitting machine. First, you're going to need some size 4 acrylic yarn or whichever yarn you want. I'm using size 4 acrylic. I also have a counter. This is not the biggest knitting machine, but the second biggest one. I'll put it down below. We're going to be using waste yarn, so that's what that red yarn is right there. We're going to load that on first. I have different tutorials that go more in depth on how to exactly do the knitting machine, so I will link those down below. But you're going to start on the prong that's the third prong, and then you're going to weave that in all the way to the end. We're in panel mode. Yeah, we're in panel mode. The one I'm pointing at that's marked, you want to make sure your yarn is underneath that one. So you saw I just pushed it down. It's the one right beside the different colored prong or needle, whatever it's called. So we're gonna go back and forth, and I believe I did that for 55 rows. You'll see at the end. Oh no, this is the waste yarn. I'm sorry. This is the waste yarn. We're only going to do a few rows. We don't need to do too many rows because we're going to switch back over to the regular yarn. So for the waste yarn, this is just the yarn that you do to kind of get the tension right and stuff. And then you switch over to your regular yarn that you're actually going to use. That way your project doesn't like look wonky. It's all kind of symmetrical, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Not really. But you want it to all look the same, basically. But I'm just going to do that for a few rows. Okay, so after that, we are going to switch over to our regular yarn, like I talked about. You want to make sure that you're at the very beginning, if that makes sense. So we're going to cut or move our red yarn in, or our waste yarn in, and then we're going to cast on our yarn that we're actually going to use. Again, you want to be in between the second and third prong. I take my hand, I hold it. You want to hold it tight. You want to make sure you're holding the yarn at the beginning and the end of every panel row, because you don't want that loose stitches at the very beginning. So in order to not get that, you have to hold it, make sure it's a little tight. You don't want to hold it too tight, just tight enough where it's not loose. Again, I do have like tutorials explaining more in depth. I will link those down below. But now I think I'm gonna do 55 rows, and I'm gonna start counting. So that was 1, so we're gonna do 1, and then every time I go back and forth, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, every time I go around, that's 1. Go back around, 2. Go around again, 3. Yeah, so that's how I keep count, because even if I had the one with the counter, I don't believe it does panel mode. It doesn't count panel mode. So see, I just went around, that's 2. And then I'll go back around, that's 3. And you're going to keep doing that for however long that you need it. Again, I believe mine is 55. So we're just going to do that back and forth, and we're going to keep counting. Remember to hold the yarn at the very beginning and the end of the rows to make sure you don't get those loose stitches. So you see that one marked, I just make sure it's down. Again, holding it at the beginning, I let it go. If you look at my hand, you'll see I let it go. And then when I get toward the end, then I start to hold it. So I'm holding it, let it go. And then I hold it again. Just like that. So now we're about to try to switch over to what is it called, tube mode. We have a few more rows to do, We're going to switch over to tube mode. I know a lot of people in their tutorials, they go from tube to panel mode, but I could not figure that out for the life of me. It just would not work. I don't know how people do it. I really tried. So instead, I go from panel mode to tube, and it's way easier. So yeah, 55. Boop. So I did 55 rows. Again, you just do however many rows that you need. Mine, I like mine a little bit higher waisted. They're not like super high waist, as you can see in the beginning of the video, but they're not super low waisted. I hope that makes sense. They're like a mid-rise maybe. But to cast on I switched it over to tube, and we're gonna cast on. And you want to make sure that the yarn is in front of everywhere that we put a stitch. So I cast on back and forth, but when I get to this end, you see I go in front of both of those, because you want it to catch on to the very first one that has the stitches already on there, because if you go behind that one, it's going to drop that entire row. And you don't want to drop the row. So you want to cast on back and forth, but you want to make sure that you're in front of each end part where the stitches are. Now we're starting over. I like to start mine over just to give a like fresh count. So every time I come back to this black prong, I'm gonna count 1. So as you see, we just went around. I came back, that was 1. Now I'm gonna go all around again, and I believe I did 20 rows. We'll see in a second. But this part is easy. You just go around. If you have the one with the counter will count this for you. But again, mine doesn't have a counter because it's not the biggest one, but it's like the second biggest knitting machine. So yeah, I don't know why they just don't put a counter on all of them, but I digress. So go around and around and around until you have it long enough. Now, how do you determine if it's long enough? You'll just have to do trial and error. Mine, depending on how short you want the shorts, depending how long you want them, usually about 20 to 30 rows should be good enough. I wouldn't do more than 30 because then you'll have like biker shorts. I mean, unless you're going for biker shorts, but I wasn't going for biker shorts. I was going for regular shorts. So I did, I believe, 20 rows. Yeah, so 20. So I did 20 rows. After that, we're going to go back. We're going to cut this one off, and we're going to put this on the inside. You want to make sure you have the yarn to the left side of the black prong, or the different color one, whatever your color is on your knitting machine. I always put this yarn to the left of it. The other yarn I put to the right. That way, again, it catches, because the last thing you want is dropped stitches. So yeah, that one's to the right, another one is to the left. Just keep that in mind. Right, left. The waist yarn on the right, the one you were working with on the left. Waist yarn, again, you just want to do a few rows, not too many. Just enough that it doesn't unravel. And of course, because we're making shorts, this is just one side of the shorts. You're going to make 2 of these. So you're going to repeat this whole thing again to get 2 panels, because you know you have 2 legs, or maybe you don't, I don't know. But you're gonna repeat it twice. So you're gonna do the whole beginning part again, same thing, do the waist yarn, do the regular yarn. Mine is 55, and then I switched over to tube mode and I did 20. Then I do the waist yarn again. I don't count the waist yarn. I usually just do my waist yarn until the waist yarn runs out. And I'm going to show y'all how I cast off. Because I don't do anything special. I don't use any needles or anything to cast off, which you'll see here in a second. So here we're at the end. And I literally just keep going until the tube falls off of the knitting machine. So you'll see it starts to fall off. It'll just fall off by itself. And that's how I cast off. And again, you're going to do this whole process again so that you have 2 sides of your leg. So you have this one is one side of your leg, and then you do another one that'll be the other side. And that's what it'll look like. I kind of just stretch it out. Right. So after you've made two, as you can see, I made two. What you're gonna do is, this is me showing y'all which side is like the outside. So that is the outside where all the V's are. This, what I'm doing now, is the inside. So you're gonna turn it inside out like how I did this one. And you're gonna put the right side out inside of the inside out leg. So that's the right, and that's the inside out. So you're gonna put the right side out inside of the inside out leg. Hopefully that makes sense. If you need to, I put a little message at the bottom. I put it at the beginning of the video, and I try to put it in the middle of my tutorials as well, that you can slow down the video if you press the playback speed. Also, if you need to, you can zoom in, all that good stuff. But yeah, after you do that, you're going to line them up, and we're about to sew them together. I figured out from my last tutorial, I believe I crocheted both pieces together, but I figured out how to sew them together, which I would highly recommend doing that because it looks much better. I take my stitch markers, and to ensure that they are put together as well as I could possibly put them together, I try to line everything up. Now, is it going to be perfect? No. If there's a way people know how to do it and it's perfect, let me know. But this is as good as I've figured out to put the panels together. Because it's kind of hard to see everything. But I try to line them up as best as I can. And I just put stitch markers all around the pants legs. That way they line up to the best that they can. But just do that. As you can see, I kind of just go down a bit, put a stitch marker, go down a bit, put a stitch marker, go down a little bit, put a stitch marker. I do that all the way around. You can see I'm struggling a bit. This is probably the hardest part, honestly, of doing the knitting machine stuff, is putting this stuff together, because I honestly don't know what I'm looking at. I try to look for like the triangles, but sometimes they're hard to see, and I'm like, man, as long as it looks good and you can't really tell, then that's all that really matters. So that's really just what I do. I just try to make it look good enough, you know. So now I'm taking my 6mm hook, and we're gonna use that to crochet around the top, and then we're gonna take just a regular darning needle, and we're going to actually sew the panels together. So I take some yarn, the same yarn I was using to make the pants or the shorts. I take that same yarn, I of course put it into my needle. I struggle doing it, as you can see. Put it in there, and then I just sew. I do a back and forth sewing. I don't know what kind of sewing that's called, but just a little back and forth weaving, I guess. And I try to put them as close to each other as possible. I do it all the way to the other side and then come back around. I think I left that in the tutorial, but I do sew all the way down, all the way to the other side, and then I come back down and do it again, just to make sure everything is extra secure, because you don't want any holes or anything coming undone while you're wearing it, because that's kind of That's kind of crazy. But you see, I'm just doing a back and forth motion, and then I pull the string to make everything tight. I'm here on the other side, and then once I get to this end up by the waist yarn, I go back down and then go back to the other side. So there's basically 2 rows of stitches. So this is me going back down to go the other way, to go back the other way. And again, I just do that to make sure there's no holes, no gaps or anything. So after I do that, I take out the stitch markers. So when I finish taking out the stitch markers, I put the pants leg out. And this is still inside out. So the whole thing now is inside out. But you see now they're like lined up. Oh. That's me just showing y'all. I was like, did I show that good enough? But yeah, you just put your hand in, take it out. And that's what it looks like. I cut that, but you'll see in a minute I regretted cutting that, and I actually attached yarn back onto that. You'll see in a second. But that's what the right way. So it's no longer inside out, and that's what the seam looks like. You can see very, it's not seamless, but you know, it's good enough. It's good enough. They're handmade knit pants. I mean, again, if somebody knows a way to make it seamless and look really good, let me know. But as for now, this is the only thing I know. I don't know how to do it. But you can see I'm going through making sure there's no holes or no gaps like I was talking about. And as you can see, there are none. Love that. You gotta really check like the crotch area, because really that's where you'll see like gaps and stuff. So I turned it inside out. I turned it back inside out. So see, this is where I cut the yarn. I regretted that. So I'm attaching it back just because it'll give me less ends to weave in, even though I still had a lot of ends to weave in. Doing this gives me a little less ends to weave in, so I attach it back with a, what kind of knot is this? Is it a magic knot? I think it's called a magic knot. But I attach it like that. Cut off the excess strings. Just snip those off as close to the knot as possible. Not too close, but close. And now we're gonna single crochet across the whole top part. I be struggling. But yeah, you're just gonna do it across that whole top part. And you wanna make sure you're grabbing the yarn that's your shorts colors. So when you're doing this, you want to make sure you're grabbing the yarn that's your shorts and not the waist yarn, because the waist yarn is going to come off. Which is also, I should have mentioned this at the beginning, but you want to make sure when you do your waist yarn, you're doing it a different color from your actual shorts. That way you can see what it is. It makes it a lot easier. As you can see, I can see all the tan stitches. So you're just going to put a single crochet in all those. You're going to do it all the way around. Okay, so after you go all the way around, what we're going to do is we're going to go in between. This is a little hard to explain. You'll kind of have to look and see what I'm doing. But you're going to go in between the little V's, the little knit stitches, and you're going to pull those. And that's how we're going to take the waist yarn out. I use a darning needle to do it. You can use a darning needle, you can use a hook, whichever one is easier. For me, I found that the needle is a lot easier to use. So that's what I use. But you're just gonna pull that You're going to pull it all the way out until you get to the end. So once you get to the end, there will be this part here. I believe that kind of like tangles in for some reason. Oh no, it's on the other side. So you pull this all the way out. See how it just comes out? Yeah, this part is kind of tangled in. You pull that out, unravel it, and then you see the other side is still attached. So you just pull that. And then you pull it from the shorts after that. I know some people would just cut their waist yarn off, which I mean, I guess you could do, but I just find that very wasteful. Like, I know it's called waist yarn, but I feel like if you can reuse the waist yarn, why not reuse the waist yarn? So I try to just take mine out the proper way instead of just cutting it. Gonna do the same thing on the other side to the red. I just find where that is. I don't know why I was out of frame right here. And then I just pull it. I just keep pulling. Yeah, and you do that. Just like the green side. So you're going to do the same thing. These are the shorts legs. So these are the legs of the shorts. Again, using a single crochet to crochet the shorts. Because if you take the waist yarn off without doing this part, your shorts will unravel. They will come apart. You don't want that. So just single crochet. Don't do this tight, do it loose. Trust me, if you're like me and have thicker thighs and stuff, if you do it too tight, it will cut off the circulation of your legs. Trust me, I've made the mistake several times. I would even say if you can go up bigger than a 6 hook, I would do that. Luckily for these, I knew these shorts were gonna stretch really good, and I tried to crochet really loose for my pants legs, so they weren't tight. But I don't know, I had some other shorts I just did, and I used a 6mm hook, and I thought I tried to crochet loose, but I guess I didn't, or the yarn just doesn't have as much stretch or something. But the legs part, really tight, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, that is it. That's how you do the shorts. Obviously I just did that one leg on camera, but you would do both legs. You do them the same way. These are the finished shorts. I did actually put elastic in my shorts, and I'll show that in a separate video because I did it separately. I didn't do them all at once. But this is what they look like, the finished. I know some people put like drawstrings and stuff, which is fine. I'm not a big fan of the drawstrings, especially the crochet drawstrings, like the chain. I don't know, they stretch out. It's just not good. I don't like them. So I've been putting like elastic in my shorts and my pants that I knit with my knitting machine. 10 out of 10. I absolutely love them. But yeah, that's the finished shorts. Hopefully this was easy to follow, easy to understand. Make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see y'all in my next video. And I'll link the elastic video down below as well. Bye!